Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's been a little while since I made a video. I had some extra time tonight and figured I'd come and tell you about this here Carabiner 98 Kurtz or K98k. Uh, Carabiner, it's like the Gewehr 98, it's the model 98, Kurtz shorts. K98k, some people just call it the K98, but this particular one is a real German, but it is a Russian capture. So this is one that when the Germans were marching east, invading Russia, somewhere in there it was captured, and pretty much the Russians just took them. They took the bolt out, threw it in one pile, threw the rifle in another. I'm not sure if they took the stocks off. I'm not sure if this is the original stock or what, but it's a great shooter. It's a very beautiful rifle. The wood is laminated. Everything is just pristine. This one here is 19. It's a 1937 S42, and it's just in outstanding condition. You know, I picked this up at a pawn shop in Dallas, believe it or not, Dallas, Texas, for $335 plus tax, and this was about 3 years ago. And it was on my birthday. I just found it. It was probably a God thing. That's what I believe. And I've always wanted one, but I wasn't willing to pay over 1,000 for anything too like, well, the originals, the German ones that are. This is a German one, of course, but it's been redone by the Russians, so a lot of people don't collect these the same. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity to get a good German Mauser, a shooter. And boy, let me tell you, that I have stripper clip here, and this is live ammo, so I'm not gonna load it in there. But 5 rounds, that's 7.92 by 57 Mauser, and that cartridge. Little history on that. It's roughly .312, so 31.2 caliber, and that's significant because the Americans at that point in time, we were using the 30-06 Springfield, which is a 30 caliber bullet. Uh, Anyways, the 7.92 by 57 Mauser, commonly known as 8 millimeter Mauser, this bullet, it's generally it's around 198, 196 grains, and it's moving at about 2,997, no, 2,600 to 2,700 feet per second, and it's doing 2,997 foot-pounds roughly. It's pretty much about the power of 30-06. It's a little wider, a little fatter bullet. When you look at 30-aught Springfield, that's actually .308. So it's 30 caliber, .308 versus .312. So a little bit bigger. Here's an interesting fact too. 30-06 Springfield, uh, it is actually 7.8 millimeter. So 7.8 millimeter, or in this case, 7.92 millimeter. So that just goes to show, that's the true dimensions if you ever were curious about, the caliber of 8 millimeter Mauser, or just a little bit bigger than 30 cal. But it's a great round, you guys, and I mean these hit with authority. I mean it's a hard hitting gun. They're fun to shoot. They're accurate. The sights on these, they go from 100 meters to 2,000 meters. And the Germans are just very, very precision sight. I had a friend that shot this for the first time, and when he's aiming it and he's looking down that sight, he's like, "You mean I'm supposed to line that up? That tiny little, he's new to shooting." And it just he rung that plate at 150 yards on his first shot. He actually did that with a Turkish Mauser I had, but it's just a good rifle, you guys. I mean, they're accurate, and most of them are on too. That's something about these. And I never touched the sights on this one. It rings still at 200 meters all day. So I've had this out to the range at least 10 times with friends. I shoot corrosive ammo. I normally shoot this Romanian stuff uh, with the red ring. It is a true steel core round, but it's that softer steel. It doesn't poke through. It doesn't poke through AR 500 steel. but it will shoot through a telephone pole. Like, no kidding. This rifle with this ammo shoots through a telephone pole. Now, the telephone pole I shot wasn't wasn't in service. It was on the side of the road in a ditch, but and it was across the ditch, so I could see when it went through the dirt splash. So that just shows you something about the penetrating power of an 8mm round. It shoots through a tree. Like, seriously, this shoots through a telephone pole. I just thought that was amazing. Now, I don't have any swastikas on mine. I have the original German proof marks right there. Let me give you, you can see that etching that's done right here. It's on the bolt. It's also on top. That's kind of how the Russians, they did these capture. You know, they would just kind of re-etch. See Model 98, and you see my other symbols. If anybody recognizes anything on this that's significant or knows any more, I really would appreciate the comment. Uh, I love Mausers, you guys. They are just fun to shoot. This is a solid rifle. It just gives you a sense of pride of ownership. It's just you can tell the quality in this. Now, I wouldn't want to take this to war today, of course, because truthfully, I can only carry maybe 250 to 400 of these in my pack versus, you know, like a 223, which I have right here. You know, you can just sell it, so you can see the difference in 8mm Mauser and 223. Actually, I have a few cartridges here I'm going to show you. Uh, the smallest one there on the end's a 223. Next to it is a 308. Next to the 308 is a 8mm Mauser. And then I have a 270, which is my preferred hunting round. And the 270 is actually a little taller even than 30-06. And that's a 27 caliber, you know, or 7mm. So, you know, 270 is just high velocity, you guys. It stretches out there. Some of these newer rounds that are in 6.5, I just think the 270 blows it away. It'll always be my favorite hunting round. But second in line is 8mm Mauser. But I won't, you know, this would be a good gun to hunt with, actually. At 100 yards, I was getting about 4-inch groups with open sights. So, and they were dead in the bullseye. I mean, they were just right there around it, you know, close. First day I ever shot with it. Fun guns, you guys. They're just solid. You know, they're made to where when they're empty, they catch. And then you take your stripper clip, you put it in there, and this is live ammo, so I'm not going to do it. But you just pretty much hold it like that, push down. You'd have 5 rounds go into your internal magazine, and then you'd be ready to rock and roll. You just slide it back in and go for it. You know, as quick as you can work that bolt. I told you about a headspace gauge. That's a Foster's 8mm gauge, and you see it won't close. I'm still in proper headspace. That's important when you buy these. So just keep in mind if you can get one. You don't want to blow up your gun, or even with a Mauser, they're so well made. They have these vent exhaust ports on the bolt. And they lock in so many ways from the back and the front. I don't think you'd blow up with a Mauser. Now let me show you what motivated me to make this today. Well, I hadn't made a video in a while, and another trick. See that firing pin is back. If you move your bolt up, hold the trigger, and then lower your bolt, I just let the firing pin down. So I don't have to, that's like a decocker if you do it right. You don't have to ever dry fire it. But I've heard the firing pin on a Mauser is very hard to break. That's something that's hard to do. I don't know because I don't dry fire my guns, but I just picked this one up yesterday. This is a Czechoslovakian, see if you can read it there, Czechoslovakian VZ24. And this is also chambered in 8mm Mauser. And I mean, compared to the other one, boy, I can just move this thing. I could whip it around. This light new synthetic stock here. Same barrel length. Somebody put this scope on it. It's a cheapo scope, but boy, it seems to be solid. I don't get any play in it yet. I haven't taken it to the range, but it appears to be bore-sighted. I plan on shooting this next week, so hopefully that goes well because this is a nice looking gun. Now, one thing that I noticed when I was fooling around with these, you want to check this too when you go to buy one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an 8mm round, and if you notice, there's plenty of space there. You can still see the copper. But when I put it in the new one, it swallowed it. Now, I was concerned about that at first, but when you take a light and look down in here, it's just been counterbored out down to about 2 inches down, and then the rifling starts. So somebody's kind of crowned it off deep inside it, which I'm losing a little barrel length there, but that actually protects the crown. It's in the gun. So I don't know how I feel about that yet, you guys. I haven't shot this rifle right here, so I'm hoping that it does well. Uh, I purchased this one from Jackson Armory in Dallas. It's a real good gun store for antique guns, and it's very affordable too, you guys. I actually paid $250 for this whole setup like this. So yeah, Mausers are a lot of fun, you guys. They are nice rifles, and that round, it's 196 or 198 grains typically. I think this Romanian stuff is like 157. It's a little lighter, but if you get the Yugo or some of the like the stuff the Germans would have used, I'm pretty sure it's like 196 or 198. It's a heavier round. It's like lots of energy there. Hard hitting round. So I love the 8mm Mauser. I mean, it's an awesome round. Uh, it is more powerful than a 270. There's no doubt about that. Even though the 270 is a little flatter shooting, this would be a better round for moose or elk or anything like that than a 270. But yeah, I just want to share that with you guys. If you have any thoughts or comments, just be sure and let me know. That Romanian ammo, it comes in these little pouches like this, little 20 round pouches. They open up with the papers. Kind of neat. I got a whole bunch of that. I got spam cans full of that stuff. Luckily, I was able to scoop that up before it dried out. And the rest of that stuff, I have a lot more than this, but it was Yugoslavian ammunition. So you can get brand new PPU 8mm Mauser as well. I don't remember it being that expensive, like 15 or 16 bucks a box. That was before COVID, so I don't know what the prices are now, but it can't be too bad. But one thing I'll say, if you're a soldier, you can only carry, like I said, 200 to 400 rounds of this in a pack. And if you had 223 or 556, these little guys, you can just see the difference there. Like I said, you could probably carry 1,000 of these in your pack. And I think that's why that's a huge advantage here. So this is some people, they get angry and they say that the 556 round was more, it was created to wound and not to kill, because you can just see the difference. I mean, these, like I said, this shoots through a telephone pole. I think I said that. Yeah, this 8mm Mauser, you guys, I've taken this thing out and I put rounds through a telephone pole. It was laying across a ditch, and I mean, it went straight through a tree that thick. And telephone poles are hard. It just amazed me, and it wasn't. It was fairly new. It wasn't like some old rotted piece of wood or something. It just was abandoned. Uh, Pretty amazing. So it definitely has its advantages, these newer rounds, and these are still plenty powerful, don't get me wrong, but it's a completely different philosophy of use. Anyways, though, Mausers they're great guns, so if you can find one at a good price, and if the head spacing is done right, remember I told you about that no-go gauge, these are kind of important. You get a filled gauge or a no-go gauge. If my understanding is correct, a no-go gauge is kind of what the factory would test, the go gauge and the no-go, and then a filled gauge is what you'd carry in your pack, and it actually gives a little bit more space even than the no-go gauge, because it still can have a filled gauge, but if it fails the filled gauge test, you really need to put that down, because that could explode on you or something. But like I said, even if that happened with a Mauser, you have such a ventilation system there, I don't think you would get hurt. But unless you had some real hot Turkish ammo or something that was just, you shouldn't be shooting anyways. And I actually have some stuff like that that is really hot. And that's another thing I'll say. If you ever have real hot ammo, and I'm gonna end with this. After you shoot, your bolt gets real tight, and you can tell, man, that was some hot stuff. And you're trying to, normally these actions are just smooth like butter. But if you get some real hot ammo, and I've had that happen in this rifle once with a Turkish round, some old Turkish surplus. I mean, literally, I came up with it and I'm like pulling, and then I get it to go. I mean, you can tell that case expanded in that chamber, and that's kind of a telltale sign that, hey, had some hot ammo. I need to quit shooting that stuff. So just something to keep in mind. But now I'm going to go ahead and move on, you guys. This is a Christian channel, and I have a passage of the Bible that I'd like to share to you today. But before I do that, if there's any questions you had or anything you saw, or maybe you know the marks on either of those two rifles and know more about them, just let me know. I love Mausers. They are my favorite rifle. Just a strong, hard-hitting, powerful design, and like I said, for 250 bucks, just geez, that's a heck of a rifle. If it's a good shooter, I haven't shot it yet. I'm gonna take it out sometime in the next few weeks. But yeah. And if that scope doesn't work, I already ordered the original sights on eBay for 15 bucks, so I'll be able to put a rear sight on there and get it dialed in. Now, the passage that I wanted to share today, I'm reading from the book of Acts, chapter 11. Now the apostles and the brethren who were throughout Judea heard that the Gentiles also had received the word of God. And when Peter came up to Jerusalem, those who were circumcised took issue with him, saying, "You went to uncircumcised men and ate with them." But Peter began speaking and proceeded to explain to them in orderly sequence, saying, "I was in the city of Joppa praying, and in a trance I saw a vision, an object coming down like a great sheet lowering by four corners from the sky, and it came right down to me. And when I had fixed my gaze on it and was observing it, I saw four-footed animals of the earth, and the wild beasts, and the crawling creatures, and the birds of the air. And I also heard a voice saying to me, 'Get up, Peter, kill and eat.' But I said, 'By no means, Lord, for nothing unholy or unclean has ever entered my mouth.' But a voice from heaven answered a second time, 'What God has cleansed, let no other consider unholy.' This happened 3 times, and everything was drawn back up into the sky." This passage right here, I wanted to share. It just shows this vision that Peter had. Because up until this point, yes, pork and other things, shrimp, shellfish, there were things in the Old Testament that were prohibited in Levitical law. I mean, they were considered unholy. And, with all the ritualistic type washings and purification ceremonies and things like that, I'm kind of getting off topic with the washings, but, Jesus in another verse, he talks about it's not if a man's hands are clean necessarily. It's not what goes into the body that defiles it, but it's what goes out of it, whether a man washes his hands or not. I mean, it's what proceeds from the heart. And when we look back at this passage, we see that now God is saying, this voice, this vision that Peter has, and Peter's crying out, "By no means, Lord, for nothing unholy or unclean has ever entered my mouth." He cared about what was written. But this here is also it's what was told to Peter in the vision. This happened. What God has cleansed, no longer consider unholy. That's what Peter receives. He said he saw all manner of four-footed creature, crawling creatures, birds of the air, wild beast, and he must have seen a pig because he says, "By no means shall any unholy thing enter my mouth." I mean, that's exactly what it says here. I saw four-footed animals of the earth, wild beasts, crawling creatures, and birds of the air. Now, there's another passage I want to share with you. This was in the New American Standard. I have this one in the King James. This is 1 Timothy chapter 4. "Now the Spirit speaketh expressively that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their consciences seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from meats which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. For every creature of God is good, and nothing is to be refused if it be received with thanksgiving, for it is sanctified by the word of God and prayer." That's what I wanted to share with you guys. All things are sanctified by the word of God and prayer. This is what the Bible teaches. This was just on my heart today. It was just a passage that I wanted to share. You guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the review. You know, if you're able to get a Mauser, you still can get ammunition today. Surplus comes up now and then. And there's also people that are making it brand new, like Privy Partisan, PPU, which is a great manufacturer. So just keep that in mind. And you guys, I really love Mauser rifles. There's just something about getting out there. And like I said, if I'm just going to, if I want that World War II feel, if I want to shoot a rifle like that, these solid wood ones, I mean, this thing is stout. This thing has a metal plate. I mean, golly, if you ran out of ammo, you could club somebody with this thing. And I mean, man, I wouldn't want to do it. It's in too good a shape. But you get my point. This is a solid. This will outlive me. This will outlive my kids if I have kids one day. I mean, this rifle is going to be around for a long time. Uh, yeah, and for hunting and for just practical use, or even a go-to-war rifle. Geez, I mean, this would. Now, I'd want a better mount than that. I don't like aluminum. I like all steel. But I'm sure that this would absolutely perform. And that is a big round. Like I said, I mean, this would be like some kind of mid-range sniper rifle in today's system. Not with a, well, yeah, with even a scope like this. I mean, I'm sure this will reach out to 500 yards, no problem, once it's properly sighted in. And I'm sure the Germans, took shots at those ranges too. I don't know a lot about that, but the gun's capable. Well, you guys, you have a blessed day. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, and check out my future videos. Oh, take care.